All right. Hey YouTube, I'm Lucky, and in today's video, I'm going to be going over the meta for Grandmasters this season, Season 17. Now, at this point in time, nothing has come out yet, but we have a good idea what the meta is. I'm going to go over all the best weapons, the best subclasses, the best exotics, and go over all 6 of the strikes. I'm going to try and do so in a timely manner because I don't want this video to be some exhaustive, crazy 1 hour video. If there's certain parts and sections that you like a lot, please comment down below and maybe I'll make a more exhaustive video talking about those particular sections, but I'm going to try and cover literally everything in as quickly as possible. So this season, the Grandmasters are going to be 1585 power is what you need to be. So if you're not quite there yet, get out there, beat your seasonal challenges to level up your artifact. That will help you. You need a plus 15 bonus and maximum gear score at 1570, or you can do obviously a plus 16 bonus and then have a little bit less gear score, vice versa, whatever it may be. All you have to do is just make sure that this number right here says 1585, or they won't even let you in the Grandmasters, right? And the reason why you want to do them this season is because you got the Adept DFA, which is going to be really, really good. One of the best hand cannons, 4-time payload. Gets that double flinch. It's really nice in PvP and really good in PvE. One of the better hand cannons in the kinetic slot. And then on top of that, we also have the Adept Horror's Lease, which is a really good pulse rifle, especially the Adept version is about to be really crazy inside PvP. It's the 540 archetype. It's going to be good in both PvP and in PvE, but it's especially good in PvP. So the Adept versions of both of those will definitely be worth grabbing and grinding for. And obviously, you have the Conqueror Seal. You can guild it for, I don't even know how many guilds are we on now, 4 now. Um, so you have that option to do as well. Now, we've got the Proving Grounds is going to be one of the GMs. That's going to be a tougher one. We've got the Warden of Nothing. We've got the Inverted Spire. We've got Insight Terminus, the Corrupted, and Arms Dealer. Now, previously in GMs minus last season, there wasn't a burn or a singe that went along with these, but now there is. So you've got Solar, Arc, and Void to go along with these. So you're going to want to spec your builds and your weapons around that. It's really important to do so because you get a plus 25% to bonus damage dealt. And so even if you liked doing something in a particular way when you did the Proving Grounds before, like for example, I used Chaos Reach because that tank room was really crazy. I used Chaos Reach, and I remember like if you affected them with stasis, it did bonus damage or whatever. I'm not going to use Chaos Reach anymore for Proving Grounds because it's solar. So now instead, I'm going to use something like a Solar Linear Fusion, maybe even G-Horn in certain situations. Obviously, you're going to have a fire team of 3, and I'm going to go over solo builds and solo stuff and at a later time. I'm going to try and solo all the GMs this season. And so to start off with, let's go over all the weapons that I'm going to be taking into GMs this season. I'm trying to go over it pretty fast, all right? We've got the Riptide. This has auto-loading and chill clip. The reason why this is so good is because the chill clip actually affects champions. So if I hit them with one burst of this fusion rifle, it'll actually slow the champion down, barrier, whatever it may be. And if I hit them with 2, it'll actually fully freeze a champion. So it'll stop them from putting up their barrier shield or whatever it may be. It's really, really helpful. And this is a really strong weapon, something that you should have been grinding for. And maybe you have one of these bad boys sit in your vault. I really like auto-loading, so that way you can get back to the top half of the magazine for chill clip. Enhanced battery is the nicest one because then you get 8 rounds, and then that way the first 4 shots actually freeze or slow champions, and it's also really good for ad clear. This is going to be one of my favorite weapons for this season, one of the newer weapons that is, because you know, want to try some new stuff out and see how these strategies work, and I think that this will actually be way more effective than a lot of people realize. Arbalist obviously got a little bit of a nerf, so if you're shooting down barrier champions, after you break their shield, you probably want to swap to a different weapon. You could continue to use this weapon. It's not bad damage overall, but they like nerfed it by like 25% damage, so keep that in mind. You might still just, if they're weak, you might still just finish them off with Arbalist. But Ignition Code's always good at blinding enemies, but again, that's going to only work for like the red bars and majors. It doesn't work for champions, which is why I think that the Riptide with the chill clip will be really sick, because if you're fighting off a champion and you hit them with a blinding grenade launcher, it does nothing. But if you hit them with this chill clip, it actually does affect them. So I think that's actually going to be a really cool change to the sandbox and a fun way of interacting with champions and grandmasters. The succession is always a really good option for keeping your range. Nothing special about that. Wither Horde's, you know, always a workhorse. You can stick enemies with this. It does damage. You can shoot the floor. You can stack it. If you stick the enemy with it and shoot one at the floor, the damage of both of those stack together. It doesn't stack if you repeatedly stick them or shoot multiple at the floor, of course, so keep that in mind. But definitely Wither Horde's always a good option. I put the Night Watch here just because we have Unstoppable Scout this season, and I think that Scouts are a better option for Unstoppable than Glaives. Glaives are special ammo weapons, maybe do a little more damage, but in a Grandmaster, if you get up on people and you're trying to glaive them, you're gonna get smacked around a lot. You're gonna get killed a lot. I would highly recommend to not use Unstoppable Glaive. There will be certain situations where it works fine, and it is an instant unstop. So keep that in mind. It can be a little bit nicer than having to like ADS for a second, but for the most part in GMs, you're trying to keep your distance. So I think that Unstoppable Scout is going to be the play, and you're going to see that the majority of my builds that I have to fight Unstoppables, I'll have the Scout on. But there is a build that I will have, and I'll talk about it in a minute with Bastion, because Bastion does have Unstoppable, and I think the Bastion will actually be pretty fun and pretty cool to use this season. Izanagi's Burden, of course, always a good option. Really good overall damage output. We got the Staccato here with Explosive Payload. If you haven't snagged one of these bad boys, definitely be sure to do so. The first legendary scout rifle that gets this explosive payload, we had to use a blue scout rifle beforehand if we wanted to have a solar payload scout, so that's definitely really nice. We got the Vouchsafe as well. We got Payload and Void, so that way we got the Void Singe or Void Burn and Arc and Solar Burn. And then we've got the Arc one here. There's no Arc Payload Scout currently in the game, so we're just going with like the Eternal Blaze and with Overflow One for All. Pretty solid Scout. Still, for overloads, I got SMGs, we got Callous Mini Tool. I don't have a very good roll of that one, unfortunately. Let me know if you got that incandescent roll. I didn't get one yet. And then we got Iglis SMG, Funnel Web. For that way, we've got one for each affinity. The Truth Teller for blinding, which is always a good option. I would pair that with like the Night's Watch, Truth Teller. That would also be a good combo. If I have to take down some barrier shields, we got the Battler for Solar. We got the Insidious for Arc. We got the Last Perdition for Void. So we can take down different barrier shields. But for the most part, I would probably have an Arbalest on my team just because it's so much more effective. Of course, it's going to be different if you're trying to solo stuff like that, but Arbalest is definitely the strongest for anti-barrier right now, and that's definitely, I'll probably try to have if I'm not the Arbalest person, I'll at least have an Arbalest person on my team. Moving down to the power ammo slot for meta and the strongest weapons in the current sandbox, Galahorn, of course, for any solar burns, so good. This thing just melts through. It'll be especially good when we have to do the Arm Stealer. We used to run through Arm Stealer in like less than 10 minutes with this. So keep that in mind. It's going to be really, really fast runs with Galahorn and Arm Stealer. Threaded Needle, not the best later fusion, but we do have the Insight Terminus. And if you have to fight Insight Terminus, you have the Void Burn. Might use that. If I don't use that, then I'll probably use Royal Entry. So I'll go back and forth between one or the other for Void Burn. And then the Cataclysmic I'll sometimes use. So I'll probably use this for Proving Grounds. I'll use Cataclysmic and then use something else. Probably use like Bastion and Battler, because we got Proving Grounds, which is the solar burn, and then we've got Barrier and Unstoppable for that one. So I've got my Unstoppable, I've got my Barrier, and then I've got my Cataclysmic. I can take out the tanks, do sustained good damage to the boss, stuff like that. So this will probably be my Proving Grounds build to start off with, and we'll see what we adjust with time, of course. Along with this, we have the Hothead Rocket, which I'll use. We've got, along with this, we have the Inverted Spire, which is going to drop the Hothead, ironically, and then I'll use this or I'll use Storm Chaser, but you want to melt that boss pretty fast, and I think that the Hothead will probably be a little more efficient at doing so, so keep that in mind. Those are all the weapons that I'm going to be taking in. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of these. I would go over a complete GODROLL guide of each one of them, but again, I'm trying to keep this video as short and sweet as possible. The Adept Weapons this season are going to be the DFA, Horror's Lease, Silicon Roma, the Hothead, the Plug One, and the Duty Bound. Of course, the ones that are most interesting from that are from top to bottom. DFA and Horror's Least, definitely interesting. Silicon and Hothead, definitely interesting. And then the Plug One and the Duty Bound, kind of like meh, you know? And then, of course, along with any of your builds for GMs, make sure you have 100 resilience. This gives you a 40% damage reduction. This is going to be huge for GMs. Don't go in to any GMs, whether you're Titan, Hunter, Warlock, Solar, Arc, Void, Stasis. Don't go in unless you got 100 resilience. Trust. Do that. If you need help finding 100 resilience, use D2 Armor Picker. It will really help you. You pick the exotic, you pick the stats, throws it on your character. Very easy. I'm not going to make an extensive video talking about D2 Armor Picker, but just trust. Along with that, Classy Restoration will always be a good option. If you're on a Solar class, this thing is so good. And in GMs, you get killed pretty fast, but I'm wondering if we're able to survive a little bit more with Classy in that. I think that'll probably be the play. I imagine I'll probably end up going in with Lorelei. I'll go over my entire Titan builds, but very briefly, for Titan Solar, the first thing I'll say is that you got to have one person on your team with Aeons. It can be your Titan, your Hunter, or your Warlock. It doesn't have to be one particular class. So have an Aeon person. For Solar Titan, I'll probably use Lorelei or maybe even Syntheseps if we have a build that's very fast and efficient. We can run through things. For Void Titan, I'll probably use Heart of Inmost Light. For Arc Titan, I'll use Cuirass Chest Piece just because, gonna do big missile damage. Moving on to Hunters, we have Star Eater Scales for Solar. For Void Hunter, we have Omni, and of course, we can use Aeons on the Void Hunter as well. Omni is so good, though, such a good option for that infinite invisibility and damage resistance along with that. And then if you're going to do an Arc Burn Grandmaster and you're trying to use your Hunter, you definitely do not want to use Arc Staff, obviously. Don't use Arc Staff. Just use Void and use Omni, and then just use Arc Weapons. Just slap on some Arc Weapons instead. Do not run into any GMs with that Arc Staff. It's really bad. Wait until Arc 3.0. That will be next season, so keep that in mind. And then moving lastly onto Warlock, we have Solar Warlock. You can use a variety of different things. Dawn Chorus with Incandescent Weapon is a really good option. And then, of course, we'll keep on Class Restoration and stuff of that nature. For Arc Warlock, we'll probably use Geomags. For Void Warlock, we got Controverse Hold. And you might even use Stasis on Warlock, even though I know all of the burns this season are Void, Solar, and Arc. You might end up using Stasis Warlock because sometimes if you're getting overwhelmed by ads, it's good to throw those turrets around. And so you could rock the Osmiomancy gloves for your Stasis Warlock. But that's my overall thoughts and impressions on GMs. The other last thing I'll mention is that the Artifice chest piece is really, really nice because you get the additional resistance, so you can have double or even rainbow resist depending upon what's shooting you. I would adjust these to what is shooting you. Like, for example, you got Solar and Void here. You can have Arca as well, and then Concussive Dampener or double up on something. Would definitely recommend having that set up for yourself for GMs this season. But overall, it's looking like a pretty exciting season for GMs. Looking forward to it. Let me know if you're looking forward to it. And make sure to subscribe with notifications on if you are enjoying this video and enjoying the channel. I'll keep you up to date on all things Destiny 2. Smash the like button. See you in the next one. Later.